Greetings fellow humans and welcome. I got very excited when the reimagining of young Cruella de life starring Emma Stone was announced. And all these videos started popping up from different costumers of historically accurate Disney characters and I thought, well, it's time then, innit? I have my base idea, 70s punk Cruella. I also have this black and white brocade PVC oilcloth. Just hanging around in my stash. Quite a lot of it, actually. And I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to use it. So I got to sketching. After spending some time looking at 1970s ball gowns, 70s punk style, the original looks of the punk movement, and of course, early Vivienne Westwood, I settled on making a PVC punk ball gown, because of course, what else? And I really wanted to juxtapose the curved designs of the PVC oilcloth I had with some kind of cool, spiky, angular shapes, and also incorporate some common punk tropes, so potentially chains, rivets, studs, oversized safety pins and kilt pins, things of that ilk. So I have my fabric, I have my base idea, I have a cosplay wig, I have my design sketch, I have probably too little time to make something quite ambitious, which is where I usually start, really. Let's get going with this. First off, I'm doing something absolutely groundbreaking for me and making an actual, proper, full mock-up.
Because I didn't want to draft every pattern piece from scratch, I dug out my Edwardian shirtwaist pattern and traced the back piece from it. And traced a bodice piece that Hamish had drafted for something else as the basis for my front bodice.
It's the next day, and I'm doing more pattern drafting.
Because of the planned asymmetry, I needed to draft two different sleeve patterns, and the shapes I wanted to make were unlike anything I have ever made before, so I completely winged it. But I did use a sleeve block as a starting point for the long sleeve.
We're back. It's a new day. Most of the pattern pieces have been created, and it is now time to cut out and sew this toile mock-up thing. It's very warm today, and I realised I literally chose the hottest week of the year to make a PVC dress. Excellent choice there, me. Oh well, let's get to it.
Hamish very kindly let me use his calico for this mock-up. The skirt pattern was just taken from a pencil skirt that fits me with the little hip pointies added, by the way. I laid out my pattern pieces, chalked out the seam allowances, and cut them out. I notched all the notches and I started sewing, beginning with the various darts. I really barreled through putting this together because complete precision wasn't necessary for me to find out if my pattern pieces would work or not.
We have a wearable mock-up, so let's go try this on and see what on earth we've got, shall we? Okay, we've learned some stuff. One is that the arm's eye on this side of the bodice is too small and is causing problems with this. I've also learned I need to change the angles on the sleeve at the elbow to get it to fit correctly. I need to add maybe an 1.5 to 2 inches to the skirt, but the bodice is pretty much there. The only thing that needs adjusting is the length of the back bodice is right and hits my waist. The front bodice is too long, but if I equalise the bottom of them, I can really easily suss out what needs taking out of the underbust piece. So yeah, it's pretty good. I want to adjust this sleeve a little. I'm going to alter the dart at the top to be shorter and shorten the bottom of it, but we're pretty good, to be honest. Like, this isn't too bad. I'm pretty impressed. Yeah, it's like nearly there. I might have to add like a kick pleat or something in the back of the skirt because the knees are so tight on it that I could barely get it over my arse, but we can work on that. Yeah.
So we have a mock-up that I have drawn all over with various instructions like extend and curve on the front darts. I'm now basically going to rip this apart and take any alterations that I need to the pattern pieces, redraft any pieces I need to, and then I think I'm just going to try and make the actual thing. I have a lot of the material I need for this, far more than I need for this project, so I'm just going to be relatively gung-ho about it. So, I ripped apart my mock-up, cursing myself for backstitching the start and ends of all my seams, and then used the Sharpie marks I'd made as a guide for adjusting any pieces that needed adjustments. The most fiddly one was adjusting the arm's eye, because I needed it to be a specific size, which meant a lot of faffing around with a measuring tape and a French curve. There may be better ways of doing this, but I couldn't think of one at the time. Oh, and to make an aesthetically pleasing shape at the neck of the dress, I decided to sketch out some curves leading into the zip that would go diagonally across the whole dress, because I just hadn't made things quite complicated enough for myself. So it is the end of the day, and I have spent literally the entire day redrafting pattern pieces. And part of that is because I decided to get complicated and do this. This is a redraft of the poofy sleeve pattern, and I decided it would be an excellent idea to add 8 darts to it, as well as move the dart placement of the original 2. So it's been a long day. I stood for too long, and so my body is very angry and in quite a lot of pain. It's boiling in here. I can't open the window because lights mean there will be bugs. Basically, I'm very grumpy about all of it because I spent the whole day doing things and feel like I am no closer to a finished thing than I was this morning. In fact, I'm further away because I ripped apart the thing I had this morning. But this is the nature of the thing. It's how mock-ups and pattern redrafting goes. I haven't even sewn the seam on the redraft and recut I did of the pointy sleeve to check if my new shapes worked. Maybe I'll do that really quickly. And then I'm gonna go to bed because it's 11:30 and I haven't had dinner. I mean, I did have lunch at like 4:30. Maybe dinner is not needed. Maybe. Gonna go do things now. I will see you probably tomorrow. Goodbye. I finished cutting all of my pattern pieces. I had to faff around a bit more with sleeves, but I think we're there on most of the pieces. However, I haven't actually mocked up or created any pieces for the ruffles I want to make. They're going to take so much fabric to mock up. They're going to take so much fabric. So instead, I made a tiny paper model, a 1/10 scale paper model of the skirt and this. A piece of paper with markings every ½ centimetre. Again, it's a 1/10 scale model, and I'm trying to figure out how to fold it and pleat it to get it to do what I want it to do when it's fabric. So I spent a very large amount of time folding, unfolding and refolding this tiny piece of paper. I've been doing this for at least an hour and a half. And I think I've figured it out. I think. Now I just have to figure out the second ruffle I want to add. So, you know, see you in another hour and a half, I suppose. While mocking up my ruffles in paper was time consuming, it ended up being incredibly useful. Although it might have been smarter to work at a 1/5 scale instead to make the paper pleats on the second ruffle mock-up a little bit less ridiculously tiny. Also, taping one bit of paper to another at a weird angle and around a curve was far more challenging than I expected it to be. Well, that's not right. Let's fix it. So, in true I'm completely ridiculous fashion, I just spent an amount of time making 3mm pleats in paper because I am a completely rational human being. But it does mean that I have a tiny model of what the bottom of my dress may look like. And I must say, even in paper it looks pretty fabulous. I have my 2 random scraps of paper that have all of my notes on them as to what measurements these flouncy things have to be, and I've photographed them because I'm quite likely to lose these. So I think it's basically time to start doing the construction part. But before I do that, I need to do some tests to see what kind of stitch length I need on the machine to sew this material without just ripping it to shreds. So test time. Might go have a snack first though. I think that's wise. I think it's snack time. Okay. So I just did a test seam, and I was so convinced that the stitches were just gonna rip the material if significant pressure was put on it. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. Even if I really pull on it, it doesn't seem to be doing any significant damage. So basically, I can just leave all the settings on my machine exactly as they were and get on with it. Impressive and surprising. I suppose it's time to cut stuff out then. Okay, I take it back. It's entirely possible to rip it at the seam, but you have to start from one end and do have to put quite a bit of pressure on. I think that just means I need to really stabilise the ends of the seams. I think that's what I've taken away from this. But still, it'll work. Again, I laid out my pattern pieces, added seam allowances, and cut them out. I cut both of my ruffle pieces, and because I was concerned about the seams of the bodice having more tension on them, I used some spare lightweight cotton to cut out interlining for each bodice piece, so at least there would be something woven for the stitches to grip to. Okay, so I have all the pieces cut. I guess it's time to start sewing. I'm a bit scared. We'll give it a good go. Once again, I started with the darts. But this time around there were a lot, and I mean a lot, more darts. I stitched my bodice pieces with their interlining together, with some minor squabbling with the layers of material. I turned over, clipped in place and stitched the neck edge of the front bodice pieces, sewed my side seams on my skirt pieces, attached the raglan edges of both sleeves to the bodice pieces, and then sewed the side seams and inner arm seams all in one go. So we have the skirt mostly made, and we have the bodice and sleeves mostly made. The only things that are really left to do is attach the bodice to the skirt, put in a zip, add the ruffles, and then finish the edges around the top. Now that I think about it, I should do that before I attach it and put zips and stuff, because it'll be easier now when I can make it a roughly flat piece. But that is the next thing to do. Then attach that to that, put in a zip, put on ruffles, and we're finished. Hello, it is day 2 of construction. It's boiling, I'm already sweating, and I don't even have layers of PVC over my lap as I sew them yet. I'm not looking forward to it, but I am looking forward to this being done. So yeah, let's get into that. So after doing the required edge finishing on the top, I attached the bodice to the skirt. Notice that as it gets trickier, I just slowly melt into my sewing machine. I clipped the zip in place, actually remembered to change to my zipper foot, and then stitched it as neatly as I could. Alright, so the zip is in on both sides, and it looks like it'll work fine, but I'm very concerned, particularly on this side, that pulling on the bottom of the zip is basically going to rip the stitching in the PVC. So what I've decided I'm gonna do is basically take pieces of the selvage of some calico scraps and like put it behind this when I turn it and top stitch it, just because that will give it some reinforcement and a woven structure. I only need to do that on the skirt because there's already woven fabric on the inside of the bodice, but I am concerned about the zip area on the skirt. Reinforce it is the plan. I added the scraps of selvage and used my clips to keep them there, but was dreading top stitching it, so I put that off and instead hemmed my ruffles, which, of course, I did in the most graceful way possible. My bobbin ran out 2/3 of the way through that. I knew it was going to happen. I literally thought to myself while I was doing this, oh, if it's going to run out on any seam I've done, it'll be this one. You know, it's only 70 centimetres or so. I'm so sweaty and so grumpy. I just want it to rain and cool down and not be working with really sticky, sweaty PVC. Why did I do this to myself? Ugh, there is sweat stuck in my eyebrows. I'm gonna go refill my bobbin now. This is the bit I'm really afraid of, which is top stitching around the zip and the hem. I just really hope I don't completely balls this up. Fingers crossed. And so I top stitched, with a bit of panicking here and there. Oh no. But I did get through it.
Okay. I decided to do a test fit before I put any ruffles on, because that's a sensible thing to do when you've passed a point of no return, right? Look at this freaking thing! Look at this dress! This is so cool. This might be the coolest thing I've ever made. But oh my god, I'm so hot. And I had to wait to be able to film this bit. I've been wearing it and oh my god, I am so sweaty. But it's so beautiful. Like, I am astonished that I have made something that looks this cool. I think I'm so excited that I am actually actively shaking. Or maybe I'm just too hungry. Maybe both. Maybe I should have a snack. But also take this off because, oh my god, sweat. It's too, no, okay. Snack and less sweaty clothes now, please. Well, taking that off felt like getting out of a sauna. My brain may have melted because of the heat, but that doesn't mean we can't get on with the next bit, pleating ruffles.
I actually took the time to mark out the measurements of the pleats, so I just needed to follow the lines and clip them to keep them there. I then sewed my first ruffle to the bottom edge of the skirt, and the second one just a little above that. I added eyelets in a few locations so there wouldn't be any ripping when I used my massive kilt pin collection to add some punk-inspired embellishments. And with that, she was done.
Excellent.
She's done. Filming that footage was so sweaty. I think it's so beautiful, but it's so impractical. Unsurprising, but true. It was really nice to do this project. This project was really good for me. It was kind of the first thing I've been able to get back into after a pretty significant dip in my health. It was really nice to just sink my teeth into something and get to make something kind of outrageous and weird and just play a bit. It's not like anything I've ever made before. It's completely different for so many reasons. I've never worked with PVC before. It was really fun to play around with making a kind of garment I would never otherwise make. I would never have a reason to make a haute couture gown like that with ridiculous pointy shoulders and poof sleeves, asymmetric with ridiculous fishtail ruffles. And so it was just excellent to chuck myself into creating something extra and play with shapes. I had no idea how on earth I was going to make this thing when I started making it, because I've never tried to create shapes like that in fabric. But I figured it out. There's this thing with sewing and with garment making where it's super easy to think that there is one way of doing things, and that if you don't do it that way, you're not doing it the correct way, and that you have to know how to do things before you start making them. That is not true. You can just start trying to make the thing. That's what I did on this. I just decided to give stuff a go. And obviously I do have sewing experience, but like, I created this entire pattern from scratch. 6 months ago, I had never done any pattern drafting before, but it is entirely a learnable skill, and I am learning it through much trial and error, because that's how I learn. I'm really proud of the thing I created, probably more than anything else I've made. It's really true to my design sketch. I loved the design sketch when I created it, and I love the garment now that I have created it, but like, it's pretty bang on. It was a lot of fun. It was a very sweaty process. I don't think I'm going to take on making a PVC dress in summer again. But I'm really proud of what I achieved. I think I've made a pretty incredible garment. Lord knows where on earth I'm gonna wear it. I need to find an occasion. Whatever mate of mine next gets married, look out, it's gonna be PVC gown time. Thank you for coming with me on this journey. If you liked this video, then give it a like. If you'd like to keep hanging out, that would be very cool. But whether you decide to do that or not, I hope everything is okay in your world, and I will see you guys next time.
It's fine. Is it fine? It's fine. No, it's not fine. Let's take the things off.
So chewy.
Very shiny.
Don't focus on my hair, focus on the background so that things don't go out of focus. No, not on me.
Oh no, it's stuck to my foot. Go away.
No. What's your deal? Look at the windowsill. The window still exists.